Hello, and a warm welcome to the third Venus Moongate. Thank you for joining me. This Moongate will be happening on the 5th of October, and in the UK, it will be exact the Moon and Venus at 15 degrees of Scorpio together. But if you are in the US, then that exact moment will be occurring a little earlier, perhaps around noon, midday. But of course, when it comes to dusk, we should still see Venus and the moon close together. It will be a tiny, tiny little slither of moon because it's a very fresh new moon, but the tiny slither of moon and Venus should be visible not that far above the horizon at the time of dusk. So that would be the time when, if you've got clear skies, you might see them. One of the beauties of the advancing winter months in the northern hemisphere is that, of course, Venus will rise higher and higher in the sky. Also, the leaf fall will mean that horizons become clearer. We can see through the trees, and we will increasingly get much brighter and clearer views of these two beautiful sisters together in the sky. As ever, there's quite a lot to say about this Stargate. Personally, I find it perhaps the most complex of the three that we've been discussing, and the two previous gates that we've had at the root and sacral chakras. So we're now at the solar plexus chakra. So a little bit about that. It's ruled by the sun, which is highly appropriate, but it's a very yang, masculine energy there, like the sun itself. And if you like, it's our own personal little sun that is glowing inside of us. It's our personal sun there. And it is in health, this chakra would be a nice, bright, vibrant yellow color. And the note that it would resonate with is E. And the things that this chakra concerns are things like our energy, our sense of self-worth, our self-esteem, our confidence, our sense of our own power, our sense of joy in being ourselves, our ability to shine and be who we are. So those are the kind of issues that this chakra is concerned with. And we know that Venus has been engaged as ruler of the eclipses which have been occurring around the nodes, the moon's nodes, and they have been between Libra, which Venus governs, and Mars in opposition to that. And there's been much that we've needed to shed in order to step into being who we are a little more. So that work has been ongoing for 18 months and has just culminated with the recent annular eclipse at the new moon in Libra on the 2nd. So we've got a history here of a journey where we've been working more towards authenticity and shedding some of those things that have stood in our way. And now we have Venus and the moon in the sign of Scorpio at 15 degrees. Now, Venus was in Scorpio for the eclipse, and I mentioned in my video about that how in Scorpio, Venus will trawl the depths. Venus will look down at those things which maybe are a bit painful to see. They may be harms done to us, or resentments that we hold, or imbalances in our relationships, toxicity that has happened in the past or the present. And Scorpio will not be afraid, in Venus in Scorpio, I should say, will not be afraid to trawl those murky waters. That's very much what Scorpio does. Now, the moon, in many ways, is, well, not in many ways, it is the agent through which we access the wider cosmic energies. The moon is our daily contact, it's our filter, it's how things filter down to us on Earth here. And the moon herself is in Scorpio. Now, this is, again, a deep moon. It's a very witchy moon. It's a moon that goes deep, has very long memory, highly intuitive, highly developed psychic intuitions. It's also a moon, if you've ever crossed anybody with a Scorpio moon, you will not have forgotten it, because the brutality of the barrage that will hit you, the memory of that will stay with you. So this is also a moon that can react in defense and react all guns blazing, no prisoners taken. This is a no prisoners kind of moon. And it's interesting that we have that configuration there, that moon in Scorpio, trining Mars, which is in Cancer. And Mars in Cancer can be very much about our wounding in childhood. These could be, because we're talking about the solar plexus chakra, woundings to our sense of self that have come from tribe, from family, from society, from rearing, all of those things. But also, and significantly for these troubled times we're living in, Mars in Scorpio can be this desire to fight for what we perceive to be our territory, our tribe, our homeland, and to get triggered. So you can see, with the potential of the Scorpio moon to lash, and this Mars in Cancer, which can be quite volatile and triggered on certain issues, feeling wrongs that have been done, going way back. All of this speaks quite potently to the wars that we have going on at the moment. And I think that all of that is part of this energy that's the background, and what a background, to Venus and the moon meeting at the solar plexus chakra. Maybe nations, as well as people, will be feeling wounded in their sense of self, will be feeling they need to exert their will over others to reclaim their sense of self-worth and self-esteem. You can see how this fits the pattern of the times that we're living through. So we could be getting some insights at this time, some powerful insights into the background of our own will, self-esteem, sense of self, and also into the issues that are out of balance in those areas in our world. And some of those insights, they're not always easy to handle, but I think what comes up for us, we can process. And I do think that we can interact with this on a personal level. Now, I happen to have this moon gate conjunct my Mercury in Scorpio, which is at 17 degrees. So it's pretty close. It's not exact. It's not 15, but it's very close. It's close enough to be considered conjunct. So if I do feel that I get, above what I'm sharing with you now, insights into the moon, if it brings me fresh reflections or deeper insights, then if I think that there are things that are appropriate for everyone, I will share those with you in due course, as they come to me. So, yes, I think a time when we could be seeing the issues in ourselves and in the world. So it's so easy, isn't it? Especially if, in some sense, our sense of ourself isn't all sparkling self confidence and joy, and whose is for any prolonged period. I think we all go up and down on the confidence level, don't we? And some of that, I think, is natural. But I do think that we can come in here and look at what we can be doing to help balance our own solar plexus energies, our own woundings in sense of self, maybe considering some of the possibilities here, because there are some, and I will go into those. So considering possibilities and what we can do personally, because all wars, discords start in a tiny seed within, and all joys and peace, love and harmony likewise start with a tiny seed within, and that we have power over. That is ours, and that is something we can be working with and doing our own bit on. Let me tell you about an important helper that we've got in the mix. I've told you that the Moon and Venus are at 15 degrees of Scorpio. At 14 degrees and 39 of Scorpio is a minor asteroid goddess called Urania. Now, she's not minor in her influence. She is one of the asteroids that Demeter George says acts like a transmitter. And she's a transmitter between Mercury, the conscious mind, and the higher cosmic mind of Uranus. So this is a strand of deep thinking coming in here, cosmic reflection on a grand scale, and also a truth that can be revealed to us through meditation and those kinds of things. So the influence of Urania here is going to be really helpful. And she's also very good at helping us see how the macrocosm and the microcosm work together. And this is really what I was just talking about when I was talking about the seeds inside us and how that relates to what's going on in the world. So good news that Urania is bang on this Stargate and helping. So let's look at what we've got here. We've got 3 female energies, the Moon and Venus coming in quite charged. And then the cooling influence of Urania, I would say, the more reflective influence coming in to temper that a little bit, which is good. And they are meeting with in the boiler room, if you like, where the fire is, where the sun is, where this male yang powerhouse is. And they're coming into that. And I think they're coming in looking and wanting to investigate some of the things that have got out of kilter with this chakra. So let's consider now what those things might be. Well, for the feminine, having been for many years under the heel of the patriarchy, there have been considerable wounds to self-expression. Women have been kept small in many ways in order to make men feel bigger. It was a case of almost the extent of playing dumb, not promoting yourself, turning down the dimmer switch, turning the dimmer switch on in your abilities, in your ego, in order to flatter the male ego. Now, this is a dance that women have been in as well as men. I mean, it takes two to reach these sorts of agreements, but things like that have been embedded in society, and obviously have led to a suppression in some ways of the fullest force of the feminine ego and self. And women who have exhibited strength in these areas have been known as harridans, ball breakers, gorgons, all of those kinds of things. It's also they've been accused of being unfeminine, of being masculine, so there've been all those ways in which women have tempered and toned themselves down in order to get a mate. And in many ways, they needed to get a mate because there wasn't much option for surviving in the world without one. So that was sort of the pattern of the past. Yes, it's had its day, when we don't have to live in the 19th century or early 20th century anymore. We're moving into new times. And, but some of that residue hangs around. And then on the male side of the sense of self, there have been all these conditions, placed on what a man is supposed to be, what a man is supposed to achieve, what a man has, how tall are you, how strong are you, what kind of car do you drive, how much money do you earn, who can you fight, all those kinds of issues, setting up this sense, is rather primitive sense of male ego there, and obviously very easily toppled, because if any of those conditions are removed, then the ego can be like an eggshell and come down like a pack of cards. And men in particular are very vulnerable to having the rug pulled from under them on those things that give them self-esteem. So the money they earn, the car they drive, the job they do, the power that they think they can wield, if those things are taken, then, I'm generalizing, obviously, but men can, in an atypical way, be left feeling, well, who am I? I don't know who I am. Often in retirement, when men no longer have the career or job that they've had, they have an identity crisis. Who am I? Women, by contrast, have tended to be more relationally orientated, and have always had a sense of self invested in that. Although, of course, they're not immune to the same issues. On the female side, a robust sense of who we are has often been misdirected into obsession about appearance. So women have been, increasingly, actually, as women have inched their way more into the male preserves, the parts of the world that we think of as typically male, there have been more and more pressures on them to look particular ways, and to conform to particular standards of attractiveness. What a prison, I mean, the Victorians did it with corsets, and we do it with plastic surgery and all sorts of silly insecurities about ourselves. And those can very much damage women's core sense of self, which of course is dependent on none of those things. So, what can we do then on both sides to start healing this sense of self at this very important solar plexus chakra? Well, out of balance, one way, we're going to become bloated but very fragile egos, because We know that balloon can get pricked and certainly will. And on the other side, we can have almost self annihilation in the sense of self, leading to all sorts of problems about our right to exist at all. So those are extremes that can be moved through at this chakra. I think one of the beautiful balancing messages that I have come through about this is that yourself is not conditional. You are beloved of a creative universe, and you are here. And that in itself is all we really need to know about our sense of self. We are made, our physical bodies are made of substance as old as the universe, as old as time, that there's nothing older in the universe than the things that compose our physical self. And likewise, our essence, our true selves, likewise, old as time, have existed forever and will continue to exist. And in the very fact that we are blessed with existence and that we are here as a created being, and in reverence to the great mystery which has created us, that is sufficient for our sense of self and to encourage us in self-love. We are of ultimate significance. But to stop us from getting inflated on that and to help us towards the humility which enables us to stay whole, yes, we are of ultimate significance. And so is every bee, robin, and earthworm in my garden of ultimate significance. That enables us, seeing ourselves as part of that whole, enables us to both know and remember what we are, but also looking at the holistic view to keep a sense of humility within that. And I think that's the path to the balance at this chakra. Obviously, there's a huge dose of self-love needed there. Loving the self as you are, without conditions, because you are loved deeply and more than is possible for you to know. We are loved. And it is knowing that enables us to bring a balance into this chakra, to remember who we are, and whatever and however our unique talents or gifts are. And they don't have to be some earth-shattering genius at all. They're intrinsically us with a right to exist. And if we can work towards that by balancing the energies at this chakra, then we do immense healing to ourselves and to the world. So if we are triggered by this moon gate, by the energies that are very much in our world at the moment, ultimately it's so that we can return to this sense of who we are, so that we can remember who we are. And there's much healing in that. So I will leave you with those thoughts. And I do hope we get a glimpse of the moon and Venus. It's going to get more and more possible to do so, I know. And lots of love to you. And thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.